is a noble goal. But if we try to force it, our dreams will turn to dust and our mouth will fill with ash. When we force something, when we actively concentrate on something, functional magnetic resonance imaging studies show that it is our amygdala that lights up at the bottom of our brain, our fear and aggression centers. And fear and aggression will make our worst nightmares come true. However, when we have a truly effective meditation practice, it is our amygdala calms down, and it is our anterior cingulate gyrus that lights up, that which functions as the seat of empathy, the hub of our mirror neurons. Love is not a psychological phenomena, it is a physical phenomena. And fMRI studies show the surest way to access it habitually. I'm not talking about a mood, I'm not talking about an emotion, but I'm talking about that which defines us. The most surest way to access that habitually is through an effective practice of mindfulness and meditation that we will go into great detail to in just several minutes from now. But let's stick with this. So if once every 12 hours we practice effective mindfulness and meditation, how will that affect the world around us? I mean, to be absolutely honest and to tell a really ugly and disturbing truth, people who look a lot like me right now are doing horrible things to civilians, practicing genocide and ethnic cleansing. And yet someone who looks just like them is telling you that world peace is possible. Physicists and metaphysicists alike speak of cause and effect, and they tell us that everything affects everything, and everything is affected by everything. If not directly, then indirectly. If not overtly, then subtly. If not immediately, then eventually. If not actually, then potentially. In an interdependent universe, by making a habit of the practices that can contribute to our peace, we have an effect on the world around us. When I was a child, I was taken by my parents to see A Coal Miner's Daughter, starring Sissy Spacek. And she played Loretta Lynn, and at one point, a man who was courting her, played by Tommy Lee Jones, attended a raffle where women were raffling pies, and Loretta Lynn was raffling, well, not raffling, I guess auctioning one of her pies as well. And so Tommy Lee Jones' character got in a bidding war, and he won, and he took a big old slice of the pie and he had to spit it out because apparently Loretta Lynn was a better singer than she was a baker, and she confused sugar and salt. And a pie with salt instead of sugar is not palatable. Just as a little bit of salt, a pinch of salt, not in her case a cup of salt, but a pinch of salt can affect the taste of an entire dish. Similarly, if just 14% of the world population becomes devoted to the regular practice of effective meditation, that will influence the world around them profoundly. Together as a team, let's chant the Saturday night evening passage or selection from Song of Enlightenment, composed by Yongjie Zhuanjue, translated by Red Pine, adapted and amplified by yours truly. But first, allow me to remind you that if at any point during this evening's live stream you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist chanting, or how to apply them, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window. Now, if you're watching on a laptop or a desktop, that should be on the right. And if you're watching on a smartphone vertically, it should be right down here. And now, together, let's chant. I learned a lot when I was young. I read sutras and shastras and studied commentaries. The names and terms never seemed to end. Like counting sand in the sea, it was such a waste of effort. Scolded by the Tathagata, what good is counting others' treasures? I realized all my efforts had been in vain. All the years I had wasted braving dust and wind. Misguided from the start, my understanding wrong. I did not know how the Buddha's sudden teaching worked. Why devotees of lesser past did not see the way. Why unbelievers may be smart but not wise. They are so foolish, so stupid, pointing to the palm to explain what is real, mistaking a finger for the moon, turning objects of the senses into ghost stories. So this makes more sense if you, like me as a child, ever saw Bruce Lee's classic, Enter the Dragon. I think it was the second reel of the movie. A British agent was trying to recruit Bruce Lee, who is staying at a Chinese monastery. And Bruce Lee interrupts the meeting to say, "It's my student's time." And the student is enthusiastic but clueless. And at one point he says, "It is like the finger pointing at the moon. Do not focus on the finger, lest you miss all the heavenly glory." And of course, he said it with his thick Bruce Lee accent, which was just chef's kiss. But what that means is this. So often, we can overthink the path. And it's usually not our fault. Usually we overthink the path, either because we read texts that have no explanation, that seem to have been written in code, or we've just received bad advice from others. Once again, not our fault, and yet it still affects us. Things like emptiness were never meant to be taken literally. Language is symbolic, and emptiness is only meant to be a figure of speech. And it works like this. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as a vast, empty void. Now, when we take emptiness literally, we can squander lifetimes superstitiously trying to understand it or pseudo-intellectually trying to understand it. But when we look at it as simply a figure of speech, its meaning is revealed instantly and viscerally. So looking at the finger would be trying to understand something superstitiously and with blind faith, or pseudo-intellectually, Looking at the moon that the finger is pointing at would be seeing the phrase, in this case, the word emptiness, as a figure of speech to describe a visceral phenomena that is universal. I look forward to going over the meditation instructions and then practicing the meditation with you after less than 1 minute of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. I spent more than half my life studying and practicing and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of Buddhism so that I could become the Yoda to your Luke Skywalker, so that you could quickly and easily become the person that your dog already thinks you are. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. And now that you've endured the housekeeping, let's together as a team perform a concise recitation of empathetic bodhicitta and enthusiastic refuge. We can begin with the longer triplet chant. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hate, engraving, and clinging by relying on thee, Buddha's example, instructions, and students. And now the much easier and more concise bookend chant. May I liberate all beings by relying on the three jewels. May I liberate all beings by relying on the three jewels. May I liberate all beings by relying on the three jewels. And at last, we come to the point where we review the instructions for mindfulness and meditation, which are known by many names, including Zen, Proto-Zen, Chan, Dhyana, Mahamudra, Mahasandhi, Ati Yoga, Dzogchen, and of course, Trekcho. Despite the fancy names, the technique is so simple you could teach it to a child. The key to mindfulness is that during each inhalation, whether we know it or not, we access our sympathetic nervous system, which has not evolved for active concentration, but which has evolved for perception, practiced vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. Therefore, during each inhalation, it is perfectly appropriate to silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this. The key to meditation is that during each exhalation, whether we know it or not, we automatically access our parasympathetic nervous system, which has evolved for both physical relaxation as well as mental release. Therefore, during each exhalation, it's perfectly appropriate to silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb, ease. And there you have it. The essence of mindfulness and meditation is found by silently and mentally reciting this and then ease in harmony with each inhalation and exhalation. And now, together as a team, let us meditate as transformatively as General Leia Organa on Ajahn Class under the guidance of Luke Skywalker. So let us not tell lies to ourselves. We cannot bullshit ourselves into feeling something we're not feeling. The accomplishment of peace is not done through willpower. It's not done through self-talk. It's not done through repression. When we feel turmoil, when we feel rage, when we feel terror, when we feel despair, we have to be honest with ourselves. It's fine to use the label this as we breathe in, but we have to be honest with ourselves about what we feel. It's the only way we're going to be able to release it as we breathe out. The degree to which we're able to release as we exhale is directly proportional to the vulnerability we allow ourselves to experience as we inhale, even if that which we experience is painful or boring or grotesque. Both Gandhi and Dr. Martin Luther King showed that peaceful protesters can have an effect on the world around them. And there's a huge difference between silently hating someone and silently forgiving someone. Forgiveness is not about, despite what people might tell you, it's not about what we feel. It's not about self-talk. It's about using our what's it called? The sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, or together as a pair known as our, well, I'm sure it'll come to me, but when it does, using our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems in the most efficient way is how we forgive people. So whether those people are real or imagined, present or recalled, Now you might say, but Lama Jigme, I've not mastered meditation. But Lama Jigme, I don't have 10,000 hours of study or 10,000 hours or an additional 10,000 hours of formal practice under my belt. How can I teach people? No less 14% of the Earth's population. The answer is simple. If you find these teachings and this practice beneficial, then simply share these live streams on social media. That's effortless. Is that a guarantee that it'll work immediately? No. But at least we're taking positive action in a wholesome direction. That's all we can do, is gently use the tools at our disposal. Do what we can gently and then let go. Excellent. There's a question. And by the way, I check for questions approximately once every 8 or 9 minutes. So, Logan Sui Namer asked, and forgive me if I've mispronounced your name. Do you think humanity will find a solution to, let's see, it's obscured by an icon, to world peace, or do we need a savior? Well, last time we had a savior, he was tortured to death, so that kind of sucked. But you ask an important question. It has been observed more than 20 centuries ago that if we have one person we look up to, it tends to make children of us, petulant and short-sighted. But when we become the heroes that we have been waiting for, when we become men and women of love and empathy, then we can do great things. And clearly, people need, not everybody is an expert in everything. We have division of labor and division of expertise, and that's just fine, but that's not what a savior is. And it's perfectly fine. I'm not an expert in computers. I rely on experts on computers. I'm not an expert in the practice of medicine. I rely on experts in medicine. My area of expertise is very, very narrow. Each of us has a narrow area of expertise, but we can wield it with love and kindness and cooperation. And I'm quoting Jill Stein, Dr. Jill Stein, we are the heroes that we have been waiting for. Each of us is at least good at least one thing. And there's a wonderful metaphor, maybe you've heard it before, of the golden retriever boyfriend. The golden retriever boyfriend is not the handsomest, is not the smartest, but he sure is sincere and sweet and kind and loving. And if our only talent is that we can be sweet and kind and loving to not just our nuclear family, but our neighbors and our friends, that goes a long way. That goes a very long way. And if we can supplement our latent empathy with a healthy practice of mindfulness and meditation, that will turbocharge our effectiveness. A fringe benefit of a healthy meditation practice, and I apologize for all the ambient noise this evening, but a fringe benefit of a healthy meditation practice is that we plug into the flow state. We plug into love's centered spontaneity. And when our choices and our utterances and our deeds flow from this from love's centered spontaneity, then we can have a profound effect upon our sphere of influence. So let's return to the savior question. That's tantalizing. A handful of decades ago, some people in Northern Europe, I forgot which country, reached out to some Middle Eastern leaders and forged a peace accord. And then members of their nation assassinated them. So a top-down approach often results in murder. I don't know if you're an old gangster like myself, but when I was a little boy, the rock opera Tommy was very popular. And there were two recurring themes in Tommy. The first was Tommy's theme, see me, touch me, feel me. But then there was his followers' theme, we're not going to take it. Never did and never will. So a top-down approach doesn't work, but a horizontal approach can. Not superior to inferior, but peer to peer. I'm reminded of the fun movie Analyze This. And a gangster says, you know, Doc, me and my friends might not be as educated as you, but we can smell fear. Lincoln said, President Lincoln of America said, you can fool some of the people some of the time, but you cannot fool all of the people all of the time. We can lie to people. There is a trend in sales called relationship sales, where you lie to yourself and you lie to someone else and say, yeah, oh, I'm only here to help you. Malarkey. You're here because you're trying to earn a living, and there's nothing wrong with that. Please don't lie about it. People can tell if we're lying to them. People can tell if we have an agenda. If the only reason we're being kind to someone is because we want to invite them to a Bible talk, or we want to invite them to a meditation class, they can tell. But if we genuinely love our kin, our neighbors, our friends, they can tell that. They can totally tell that. And that's what they need. Meditation is a useful tool, but it's not the only variable in the equation. If we are going to be men and women of love and peace, we must be shrewd. We must make sure our physical needs are met. Get enough sleep. Eat a whole food vegan diet. Get fresh air, sunshine, exercise. These things are important. You cannot, just as you cannot exercise your way out of a bad diet, you cannot meditate your way out of bad lifestyle choices. They work together in harmony. Even Buddhist monks have physical practices. They walk, and quite a few of them perform bowing. These are whole body exercises. A good meditation teacher encourages people to eat a healthy diet and to get enough sleep. There's no substitute for sleep. There's no substitute for fresh air, sunshine, exercise, and the like. Be shrewd. Let's take a moment to review Dzogchen, or Ati Yoga manifesting, as inferred in his source text, in the source text of Garab Dorje. There are things we want to avoid and things we want to receive. Every time we breathe in, we can spontaneously notice what we dread and what we desire. And every time we breathe out, we can release the obstacles to protection and acquisition. According to the founder of Dzogchen, that's all it takes. We might not get what we want when we want it, but we will, or the way we want it, but our needs will be met. It's antithetical to how we were raised. We're raised in the make it happen culture. But by noticing, releasing, things can happen. And remember, we, as a fringe benefit, we access the flow state, which is the optimal way of guiding our choices, utterances, and deeds. There's a phrase I've heard many times in my life, but it took me many years to understand. The phrase is, get out of your own way. So often with our controlling tendencies to avoid what we dread and receive what we desire, we wind up inhibiting the liberation from what we dread and the acquisition of what we desire. Whereas if we just noticed and released, those things would have happened in a much swifter and more beneficial way. Let us seal this evening's practice with a bit of the old chanting, beginning with kind ethics and concluding with the 4 immeasurables. May all beings practice of kind communication, conduct, and calmness flow spontaneous and uncontrived. May everyone be free from misery. May everyone be happy. May no one be separated from the happiness. May everyone have balance from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging freed. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel on Patreon. And if you are as geeky as me, oopsie, I forgot to mention something. I look forward to joining you in approximately 11 hours for tomorrow's early morning meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, this is the way.